Hello everybody and welcome back to Dominion, Nova Scotia. You are watching the 2026 Nova Scotia Under-15 AA Provincial Hockey Championships here on this Easter Sunday morning. Happy Easter Sunday to everybody watching this one at home here in semi-final number 2 between the Bedford Blues and the Halifax Hawks. They just met yesterday, finishing in a tie game, and they're at it again here in this one. This time with a gold medal game appearance for the province on the line. My name is Luke Diamond. Thank you for tuning in to High Button Sports. Well, if this game is anything like the last one, we should be in for a darn good one. 5-4 the final in the last one. The Glace Bay Miners squeak in to the gold medal game here on home ice in Dominion, beating the Dartmouth Whalers in a barn burner. Glace Bay at one point was up 4-1 in that hockey game. Dartmouth fought back to tie it at 4, but the captain of that team, Matthew Hutt, with a late goal in the third, makes the difference. And we will see them here later today in the final at 2 o'clock, which you can also watch here on High Button Sports as we get set to go in this one. Let's meet our starting goaltenders. Brendan Trowini, back in net here for the Bedford Blues, has played in 3 of the 4 games here so far in the tournament, and it's a battle of number 1 as the starter for Halifax will be Oliver Grinnell Brown. He's played in 3 of the 4 games as well for his team, as the Hawks won a game and tied 3 others. Bedford themselves with a win and a pair of ties to finish in the 3rd seed in this tournament, as we're just about prepared to go here in this one. We're waiting on the referees to take the ice, and the nets are being checked up. As a thriller of a game yesterday between these two teams. Halifax led 1-0 after the second period. Bedford tied it and then threw it into their own net to give Halifax the lead back to 2-1, but then tied it again later in the game to seal the tie game at 2. But here we go in the provincial semi-final. The Bedford Blues and the white and blue to your left, and the Halifax Hawks and the Home Reds to the right side of your screen as we're underway in this Battle of the Basin, or Battle of the Harbor, however you might want to frame it. If you're tuning in here from the Halifax area here this weekend, it's going to be an offside early in the game in front of the Bedford Blues bench outside their line. It's the top line starting this game here for the Hawks. Joseph Rimmer, one of the tournament's leading scorers. He's 4th in the points department with 7 points in 4 games, including a goal. As Connick, his line mate, gives chase. Taking it up the other way is Aidan Knowles. Knowles won the backward skating competition yesterday in the tournament skills competition. Very agile skater, as we can see, and a very deceptive shot as well from the Blues captain. And Rimmer will find the open ice, going to Owen Kempster-Harper, but he was caught offside as Rimmer was a little too quick to join the rush. Just getting going here in the first period. Some real exciting hockey already today. There has been all weekend, especially involving these two teams. The Hawks playing to 3 different tie games, and the Blues to 2 of their own. Oh, it's always close. Won't finish in a tie here in the semifinal. Of course, it'll go to overtime. You got to decide your gold medal game participants somehow. Lincoln Johnson of the Blues was pinned up there along the wall. Also, Carter Linehan out there on that line for Bedford. And jumping around the pressure, here come the Hawks. Vincent Brown snaps it high of the net. Brown curls away from coverage. Goes back to the line for Gabriel Asselin. He's going to go off some shin pads and roll over to the far side for Theron Fortier. The Hawks will control in the zone. Asselin lets it go. Rebound came out. It got away from Brendan Trowini in net. And the second attempt blocked it away by Trowini. Had to make a couple of sharp saves here in the first minute and a half of the game. Brown pursued it down the corner after Asselin was rubbed out along the boards by the Bedford Blues' Marshall Potter, the defenseman. Shot from the point. Oh, kicks out the leg at the last second. An excellent save from the point by Brendan Trowini. And cutting up through the zone with that at the end of a shift is Lincoln Johnson. Johnson beats his man. Can he get the shot? He does. Grinnell Brown shuts off the bottom of the net though, making his first save of the hockey game. Some tired bodies out there. So the Hawks will send it down the ice for an icing 2 minutes into this one. The face-off will come to the left of Oliver Grinnell Brown. Bedford's Eric Boudreau in to take the draw. He had a goal and an assist in yesterday's tie game against Halifax. The Hawks had a late change, so they will have their centerman Rimmer kicked out of the draw, and the Blues will win it. Back to the point for Jacob Picot. And Halifax will take it out. Kempster Harper tried to center that through for Rimmer. Almost took it back the second time around. As the Hawks managed to keep it in, Kempster Harper tried to play it up to himself. He is being pressured there closely by Adrian Hogan, pushing and shoving him along the boards. Centered out into the feet of Connick, straight up into the air. Kempster Harper played back after retrieving it on a stick to Rimmer and back to the point. The shot originated and was blocked by a Blue in alone. Pouliot! Oh, what a bad save by Grinnell Brown. Challenged there early on the breakaway attempt as Blake Miller's shot was blocked by the Blues' Joshua Pouliot, who was almost in for the game's opening goal. Rimmer is trailed by Kempster Harper as three more Halifax Hawks are changing. Rimmer centered out front and barely kept in. Sullivan, the long-range shot, is going to knuckle puck wide of the net. As Keaton Bond attempts to hold the line, he doesn't, but Luke Peddle will as a penalty is called from the referee. It's an interference minor coming up. It was called just as the Hawks touched it up. So Owen Kempster Harper is going to sit for 2 minutes or less here for the Halifax Hawks, with Bedford going to their first power play of the hockey game. Cohen McNally in to take the face-off for the power play unit, flanked by Alex McLean to the right and Will O'Neill to the left. It's back to the point, and the shot is up top and into the chest protector of Oliver Grinnell Brown. Aidan Knowles back on the point for Bedford is joined to his right by Emmett Connors, the defenseman. The Blues go at it again and immediately cleared out there. An excellent penalty kill play by Luke Peddle. Peddle takes off down the ice, is cleared out of its range, gets a little tied up with Connors from the Blues, and Alex McLean looked to carry it in. McLean, a very quick player. We've seen him with some pretty fast bouts of speed here this weekend. Knowles will enter the zone and carried in further by McNally. Pinned along the wall by Sullivan and left off for Will O'Neill. O'Neill curling around the net for Bedford. Stops up at the hash marks. Is pursued there along the wall by Bond, but O'Neill gets away, jamming along the close side where Oliver Grinnell Brown will hug his post and cover it up with a minute and 18 still to play on the Bedford Blues power play. Still no score in this one. Just about 4 minutes into the game. In the last game between Glace Bay and Dartmouth, there was 2 goals in the opening minute 32. One from each team. As Caldwell off the Blues face-off win tries to let that go through traffic. It is sticked away by Sullivan, the defenseman. Sullivan will throw the body and get it up to fellow penalty killer Vincent Brown. Brown will curl up at the Blues blue line and send it into the opposite side. Matthew Hollett on top of it. The big forward for the Hawks is tied up between a pair of Blues, and Bedford will strip the puck and take it away. Now going up the other way is Lenahan. Lenahan joined to the left by Blake O'Hearn, but they crossed some wires there and it is sent down the length of the ice by Halifax. 38 seconds now to go on the minor penalty charge to Kempster Harper. Lincoln Johnson, centering pass attempt, is looking for O'Hearn, and the second attempt from the perimeter was well wide of the Halifax net. Caldwell plays it down out of the reach of his forward and played in front. Johnson, a close range shot, blocked there, a gutsy play by the Hawks. Lucas Tang not afraid of the block, and the penalty coming up again after a collision just inside the Halifax line. And some skirmishing still going on between Connick and Lenahan. The call is a head contact. And it looks to be going against Lenahan from the Blues. So 4-on-4 action for 11 seconds here. Will bring an end to the Blues' first power play and a start to the first Hawks power play after 11 seconds of 4-on-4 play. Joseph Rimmer taking the ozone face-off for the Hawks to the right of Brendan Trowini. Rimmer rolls around. Nice backhand pass over to Blake Miller. Cannot beat Joshua Pouliot wide side, but he does get the puck back in the corner. Now on the power play as Kempster Harper's out on the ice, and he almost cupped the puck in the zone for Halifax, but couldn't. He has to backtrack to his own zone, where Miller will go to his D partner and eventually up to Rimmer. In a puck battle there with Joshua Pouliot, and he will contribute to getting that back out to center, where Tang will hang on to it. Blake Miller now skating into the zone. Miller turns on the Jets. Center out front for Rimmer. It was a little too far ahead of him, though. Another minute 18 to play on the power play. Finds Connick at the back door. Trowini lost it and then covered immediately. But his defenseman came in to help him out. And that time, he will freeze the puck for the save. With 9:17 to go here in the first period. The Hawks underway on their first power play of the game. Connick, Rimmer, and Kempster Harper squaring up the power play unit, and the Blues won it and sent it down the length of the ice. Out of his net is Grinnell Brown to tee it up for Connick, who is back, and is going to take a wild bounce in front of the net. Almost found its way to Charlie Stort, the penalty killer for Bedford. And up the ice goes Bond. Finds Rimmer to his left side. The Halifax captain will enter the zone around the perimeter and will get set up center for Kempster Harper. Couldn't get a clean shot off. He was handcuffed and knocked away there by the hand of the defender and off to the boards. Rimmer attempts to keep it in the zone, and Sullivan will grab it and keep it from going past him for a near breakaway attempt as Ryan Quigley was preparing to turn on the Jets. We'll get a stoppage of play, as I think that was a hand pass assessed against the Hawks. 32 seconds now to go on the power play. Vincent Brown wins the draw. Goes back to Bond and Sullivan. Sullivan looking for Todd up the wall. And Brown enters the zone. Skates around O'Neill. Lets a shot go into the glove of Trowini, who is calm. And Brown can really pick the corners with his shot. And he came close there. But Trowini, calm and cool between the pipes for Bedford early in this hockey game. .8:23 in the period, nearing the midway point of the first period. Scooping off the draw is Jax Nickerson-Meehan. He hit a goal yesterday against the Blues, but he can't hold the line as he is forced out by Bedford's O'Neill. Sullivan centering pass. Gets away from everybody, it seems, and slapped out to the far side. And Lenahan is out of the box for Bedford. We're back to 5-on-5. So an early penalty kill for each of the teams in this semifinal game. Still tied at 0. Luke Peddle picks it up there on the no-look pickup. Skates around Caldwell and is then subsequently hit by the Blues defenseman. Played up along the wall where Lenahan will clear the zone. It actually struck the linesman at the Bedford blue line. Marshall Potter hustling over to clear it out. Doesn't get it very far as he ran into Vincent Brown. Brown chases down to the corner, and Isaac Caldwell will attempt to clear it out again. It's held at the line, though, by Fortier. Hallett hustles in to keep the attack alive for Halifax. Fortier at the far boards, then taken away by Cohen McNally in behind his own net. A little bit of back and forth here in the Bedford Blues zone. And it's taken away, and up the ice with it is Will O'Neill for the Blues. But he loses a handle on it in front of the Halifax bench. And the Hawks will take it away just as they're changing, maybe narrowly avoiding a too many men call. Throwing the body now, Roman Marson forces the turnover on Bedford. 6:47 left in the period. Still no score in this one. It took these teams until the second period in yesterday's game to score a goal. A little bit of discombobulation near the Bedford Blues net, but they will clear it out. Some tired players out there for Bedford. And Halifax will try to muscle it up through the neutral zone, a very small neutral zone compared to your regulation-sized ice. Here at the Dominion Arena this weekend has made for some very interesting and mistake-prone hockey at the same time. It's really sped up the game as well, making for some entertaining hockey games. The Halifax Hawks ice the puck there. So the face-off is coming down to the left of Grinnell Brown in the Halifax territory. Joseph Rimmer and the top line for the Hawks out there. He'll win the draw and take it himself out the center. 2-on-1 forms. And the one-touch pass from Connick couldn't find his man, Kempster Harper. Kempster Harper retrieves it in the corner. Was looking to go back down low to Rimmick on the cycle. But the Hawks find themselves back at their blue line. Blake Miller now toward his net. Goes D to D. Played up by Tang and deflected by Connick off a Bedford Blue and down the ice. Blues captain Aidan Knowles will stop up and spin around, trying to clear that out, but it is stripped here by the Hawks. Kempster Harper at it for a moment, and Ben Connick almost stripped it from the Blues again. But now it's up for Pouliot, who had a breakaway earlier in the period. Tried to steal it off Irick Sullivan, as Sullivan hits the brakes. Hawks now completing some changes. Ben Connick makes a nice move up through the middle of the ice and will pass it off at the center ice logo. Vincent Brown off the bench. Rubbed out on the play by Boudreau and relieved there by Nickerson Meehan. Centering pass attempt way over to the far side where Todd was waiting. And a long-range shot off the tape of Nickerson Meehan will be gobbled up by Brendan Trowini. 5:01 to play here in the first period. Still scoreless here in the provincial semifinal on High Button Sports. A tie-up off the draw in the Bedford zone. Slapped up and out by Charlie Stewart. And McLean keeps in chase of it. Alex McLean, centering pass opportunity with Will O'Neill driving the net. In around the boards as Stewart will grab it in front of the timekeeper's bench and goes back to his defenseman, Isaac Caldwell. Taken away by McLean. He has some time and space. Lets a shot go. Looking for the fire blocker on Grinnell Brown. He can really fire it from the perimeter. Panted away the second time by the Hawks goaltender. Now back to the point. D-to-D pass finds Caldwell. The shot. Rebound. Bounced right out to O'Neill coming off the wall. The Blues will keep the pressure up in the Halifax zone. McLean from the wall. Rebound attempt. Will fire wide of the net. Caldwell sells it down at the line. It's going to bounce over the stick of McLean. Clearing attempt by the Hawks fails. And McLean gets it back again at the hash marks. But the second time around is dumped by Luke Peddle. And both teams will get some much needed changes in. Here comes Peddle up the middle of the ice. Gets away from him. Lenahan goes back to his defenseman. Stripped out by Peddle. And a bad save by Trowini on short notice. He'll roll up and out of the zone again as Trowini continues to be very sharp here in this first period for Bedford. Johnson centering pass and almost a big hit in behind the play. Going to be a Hawk falling to the ice as Connick got in on the play and a shot over the net. Rebound, Lenahan one-handed it, trying to swing that over the glove of Grinnell Brown. He couldn't. Lenahan now rooting for it, and he scored! Lenahan streaks it by Grinnell Brown, and the Blues take an early lead in the semifinal. And Lenahan at the right place at the right time. It's a half second quicker to the goaltender on the puck and will squeak it in on the short side to give Bedford an early 1-0 lead here on Championship Sunday. Rimmer skating up through the middle of the ice with it. Lets the shot go from the high slot. Is knocked down and it got away from Trowini. Connick will retrieve it. Back to the line for Tang. D to D. Finds Miller at the top of the circle. Shot. Blocked away by Troini. Open side. And Kempster Harper couldn't get there on time for Halifax. Lenahan trying to exit the zone. Glove down. Kempster Harper. The toe drag attempt. Gets it back. Walking through a pair of Blues. And a good defensive play by Johnson to break up the rush. Rimmer now centered. Missed Connick, but will find Miller. Blake Miller off a stick shaft and off the wood up over the net and out of play here in Dominion with 2:29 to go just a moment ago. Carter Linehan opens the scoring. 1-0 Blues here on High Button Sports. The Rimmer line still out there for Halifax, but the face-off is won there by Boudreau in the Blues D-zone. Quigley trying to flick that up and out of play. He failed, so Connick will step through. In tight! Rowini again denies him, that time with the paddle. Quigley clears it up and out of the zone and down the length of the ice. And what a period this has been for the Blues netminder as the Hawks have mostly controlled the play in this first frame. Rowini has kept shutting the door here. And what a tournament he's having here in Dominion. Face off to the goaltender's right. The Vincent Brown line now on the ice for Halifax going up against the Boudreau line for Bedford. Brown had won the draw and now gets it in behind the net in the corner. Tries to work it out front where Nickerson Meehan was looking for the centering pass. Back to Irick Sullivan. Goes to the wall for Keaton Bond. Off of the dash and bounced out in front quickly where Nickerson Meehan had a point blank look and another big save by Troini. Shot down the ice and it'll be an icing call again against the Blues, who will get a change in after that one with another 102 seconds to play in the first period. Face off to the right of Troini. Brown going into the face-off against O'Hearn, and Brown wins it in the O-zone. Tipped in front, chaos. Brown lets the shot go off the skate of his teammate Marson, and will bounce away. Nickerson Meehan delayed. Down and behind the net for Brown, who now will pin it up along the wall by a pair of Blues holding him to the boards at the hash mark area. Then 14 left to go in the period, and the puck is frozen and not moving. And finally makes its way out to the high slot area where Nickerson Meehan will retrieve it, but the clear into the zone is up over the short glass here at the Dominion Arena and out of play. This one should come outside. Just over a minute to go here in the first period, as McNally had won the draw in his own zone. The tie-up up at the Bedford Blues line. Halifax starts to break out in their own zone and gets it quickly down in front of the Blues net again. Attempting to chip that out of danger is Rimmer. And the Blues, with 40 seconds left, will pin it up in the Hawks zone a little bit, but not for long as Gabriel Astelin shot it down the ice, and Isaac Caldwell will flee the pressure. And again over the same spot where it was shot out of play by Nickerson Meehan about 30 seconds before. So the draw will come back into the Blues zone with exactly 30 seconds to go here in the period. Face off to the left of the Bedford goal. Johnson loses the draw to Rimmer. Secured on the wall by Kempster Harper. Down in the corner, but nobody was below the goal line. Ready for the cycle for Halifax. Connick goes in to jam away at it. And taken away by Johnson. High up off the glass and around Lenahan. And a foot race for it up the other way, giving chase. Blake O'Hearn for the Blues, and he's going to force the turnover on the forecheck. A pair of Hawks in there to throw the body. 3 seconds now on the clock, and time will expire here in the first period. Just one goal in the opening 15 off the stick of Carter Linehan. And the Bedford Blues lead by 1-0 heading into the first intermission. You're watching the 2026 U15 AA Provincial Hockey Championships here in Dominion on High Button Sports. And we're back for the second period here in semifinal number 2 of the U15 AA Provincial Hockey Championship here in Dominion. Carter Linehan with the game's opening goal to make it 1-0 for the Bedford Blues. Both of these teams fighting for a date with the Glace Bay Miners, the host team, in the championship final at 2 o'clock. Boudreau takes the face-off for the Blues outside of the Hawks' blue line. It's going to be taken away by Halifax and flipped there on the backhand by Kempster Harper. Going to give chase. Joseph Rimmer takes it away on the battle along the boards there in behind Brendan Troini's net. Rimmer got tied up there with a defender and back to the point. Tang tried to slap it there from the top of the circle, but a good block committed there by Ryan Quigley. It'll be chased down the ice and on the one touch up to Rimmer, who will skate in a 3-on-2 with Kempster Harper. The backhand pass to no one. Koenig missed the net on the shot as Troini was sliding over on the second attempt. Kempster Harper couldn't get the backhand on the second attempt either. Now up the other way with it. Adrian Hogan will gain the line for Bedford. And Quigley backs it into the zone on the backhand. But it's sent down the other way by a tired Halifax line for an icing against them. Draw to the left of Kempster Harper, or rather Grinnell Brown. Lincoln Johnson jumps onto the ice for the Blues, but a little bit of delay in action as the referee is having a discussion at the Bedford bench. I think they were a little late to make the change there. They're going to send Johnson back to the bench and send Cohen McNally out onto the ice, but he'll be kicked out of the dot. But nonetheless, Stuart Head won the draw for the Blues, but it'll find its way back to Bond for Halifax. He's posted up along the wall there as Vincent Brown looks to escape pressure. Up for Jax Nickerson-Meehan. Makes the pass at center ice. Trying to step through. The pressure was Aiden Todd, but it's taken away by Bedford. Down the other way. Charlie Stewart leads the rush. Hit the post with the wrister. As it rang out, he had beat Grinnell Brown on the glove side. Inches from a 2-0 Bedford game. Stewart takes it back and fires it up to the top of the point. Shot from range. It was Emmett Connors firing that for Bedford. Connors holds the line on the backhand. Goes up the dash and off the boards the other way from Halifax and sent down the length of the ice as Knowles couldn't get to it for Bedford. So another icing call coming up against the Halifax Hawks. Halifax, the 2 seed in this tournament, had 5 points in the round robin, a win and 3 ties. While Bedford had 4 points, a win, a loss, and 2 ties. One of those ties for each team against each other in their final round robin on Saturday, as Halifax try to establish some pressure in the Bedford zone. They can't quite do that as Linehan skips it up and out. Marshall Potter gives chase. The defenseman will join the rush and the forecheck. Potter picks it up in front of the net. trying to release that shot was Lincoln Johnson in the slot area, but it's going to roll around him. And Irick Sullivan will take it up the ice. Matthew Holland almost headed to and almost broke in. And now a breakaway chance here. Lenahan skating in alone. Tried to go on the 5-hole, and the rebound attempt as Johnson joined in after is denied. A couple of big saves from Oliver Grinnell Brown to keep it within a 1-0 score. So close to his second of the game. Carter Lenahan buzzing here today for the Bedford Blues. Centering pass there from Eric Boudreau is wide. Ryan Quigley is the intended recipient of that pass in the back door. It went by him. And Halifax is up and out of the zone. Here's Kempster Harper. Drop pass looking for Rimmer. Rimmer's going to psych to one side of his Bedford coverage. He's going to miss him. And up for Quigley. Quigley will gain the line onside, and Boudreau gives chase in the corner. Pressured there by the defenseman, but Boudreau will opt to go to the other corner. Exchange of passes with Hogan. Boudreau walks around and unable to hold the line as Jacob Picot had it pop up and over his stick and offside against the Blues. These teams have seen a lot here this year. Seen each other, that is. Only 1 point separated them in the Central Minor Hockey League standings this year. The Hawks had 35 points, second in the league. The Blues 34 points and third. And including in the league semifinals, these teams met. Halifax took that one by a very narrow 3-2 score. And lo and behold, here they are again in the provincial semifinal. So it always seems to come between these two teams to go through each other. Nickerson Meehan skates up across the red line, then the blue, and that is off a stick and wide. Bounces hard off the wall, but hit the back of the net. Brown takes a bump from a Bedford defender in behind the goal. 4 minutes into the period now. Still a 1-0 score for the Blues as Brown tumbles down. Luke Peddle trying to help him in behind the net, and a pair of Blues joining into that battle as well. It is recovered by Joshua Pouliot in behind the goal, who is going to opt for the icing call and send it down the length of the ice here on the long change second period. 10:46 to go here in the second period. A 1-0 score still for the Bedford Blues. Face off to the left to Brendan Trowini, as Rimmer had initially won the draw, but it's gone up and out of the zone by the Blues. Alex McLean lead forechecker for Bedford, as Blake Miller swung it around on a slap in behind the goal. Kempster Harper on the right wing inside the Halifax zone, looking for the clearing attempt. Knowles uses his glove to keep it in and throws it in the direction of the net. McNally was parked in front of the goal for Bedford, but doesn't come to him. And the Halifax line is up and out of the zone. Rimmer cannot settle it down, and neither can his line mate Connick. And up with speed the other way is Charlie Stewart. He had a post early in the period. McNally tries to center that. Knowles joins the rush as well. Bedford captain swings it on a center and knocked away as it didn't quite get to McNally as he hoped. Knowles off the stanchion on the close side glass as Knowles is rubbed along the boards and then gets back to play his position at the point. Rimmer looking for the center up to Connick and tied up. Rimmer now in alone. Oh, what a save by Trowini, stacking the pads to deny the Hawks captain of the equalizer. High up off the glass now and cleared out to center by the Blues, and Miller goes down to the ice that time. A big hit thrown there by Marshall Potter. Up through the middle of the ice is going to come to a trickle in front of Grinnell Brown's net, and a good puck battle as McLean made things interesting. Potter lets the stopper go from the point, and McLean was looking for the deflection. It didn't hit anybody though. McLean's second attempt will let it go. Grinnell Brown was hoping to glove that, but it got away. Blake Miller out there in a long shift here for this D pairing for the Hawks. Miller's tired and will take it himself up across the red line. He's going to collide with his teammate though, Hollett. Hollett trying to slap that back in on a deep dump for Halifax, but instead we're going to get a battle here in the neutral zone. And still some silliness going on in behind the play. as Peddle entered the zone for Halifax. Out there on that line with Roman Marson. Marson was waiting in the corner, but it never got to him. Bedford attempting to clear the zone here. Now going up on a skate is Potter, who is lined up there on the hit by Marson. Comes in behind Grinnell Brown's net now. 8:19 to go here in the second period. 1-0 still the score. Bedford Blues in the lead. It's a hit thrown there in behind the play by Todd for the Hawks. And stepping and entering the zone, Lyndon Johnson drops for O'Neill, and that hit a stick on the way in and left padded away by Grinnell Brown. Now up the ice, picked up by Nickerson Meehan on the backhand. He'll hit the brakes at the circle. The Hawks will get set up, but they're changing at the same time. Back and forth, Nickerson Meehan off the bench, where Connick tried to get that into the net. It was kicked aside by Trowini. Connick gets chased down low, and Trowini is way out of his net to cover that up and force the whistle midway through the second period. Bedford hanging on to a 1-goal lead on High Button Sports. And face-off, won by the Hawks. They got right in as Rimmer looked to jam that by Trowini on the close side. Rimmer hangs onto it. He recovered his own rebound. Chased there to the wall by Boudreau. Rimmer will walk up to the hash marks against a pair of Blues defenders. Long-range shot from Theron Fortier is wide of the net, and Kempster Harper will get to it. Pinned along the wall by Jacob Picott. Got back up to the point. Long-range shot will bounce in the air. Rebound. Rimmer jamming at it, and that did not go in somehow, as Trowini made a couple more huge saves. He has been on the ball today for the Hawks, or for the Blues against the Hawks, as Halifax almost got a fortunate bounce in front of the net. It's going to be kept in, and Ben Connick will wheel around the cage, and Rimmer on the backhand against Harper. Stopped again by Trowini. And some words after the play here between the two teams with just under 7 to go in the period. .6:53 to go in the frame. Face off to the left of the Bedford net. Vincent Brown in the O-zone. Thought he had won the draw, but instead it skips to Knowles for Bedford. His scrum will ensue. Going to roll in behind the net for Emmett Connors. Tries it on the clear on the close side. Looking for McLean, who's trying to get that one out, but it's taken away by Nickerson Meehan. Top of the slot, and rattles up off the glass as the shot went high. Held at the line, tanked from distance, and blocked. Down goes Bedford the other way on a skate. Cohen McNally in 1-on-2, gets some help. Shot from Charlie Stewart from range is gloved by Grinnell Brown, as the goalies have been locking it down in this game so far. Face off between McNally and Brown. Brown is going to be ejected from the draw. Nickerson Meehan has to step in, and he will win it here for the Hawks. Is brought up out of the zone. Marson ran into a blue and dropped a stick in the process. Knowles races back to fire it down the other way for Bedford, but Marson will pick it up for Halifax on the entry. Tried to toe drag it around Knowles, and the Blues captain will take it away. Knowles gets it up the center in between two of his forwards. There's a little bit of commotion going in behind the play between Brown and Knowles. Backhanded up and in by McNally, and that will roll in behind the Halifax net. McLean throwing a hit there on Tang. Nickerson Meehan at the end of a shift will look to escape pressure. Halifax caught deep in their own zone. Bedford looking to pour on a little pressure here with some fresh legs out. Charlie Stewart had that puck bounce by him, but McLean will race over to keep the drive alive. And now up the center as the Hawks finally manage to change. Marson will hustle to the bench. So now Brown will handle it in front of the Bedford Blues players bench and skate up across the center ice logo. Fresh legs on as Peddle takes the ice for Halifax. It's going to center that. Nobody was home as the rest of the Hawks forward line is changing. And now up the middle of the ice and on the rush is Blake O'Hearn. He'll curl off the close side and lets one go from the perimeter, where it is going to be gobbled up again by Oliver Grinnell Brown on the save. A blue went down as he was charging the net in front of Grinnell Brown. We'll get a face-off in Hawks territory with just over 5 to go here in the middle frame. Tie up off the face-off as Johnson won it back for the Blues and picked it up, trying to walk into the slot area, stripped off the puck by Rimmer, and the Hawks are back with numbers the other way. 2-on-1 now. Rimmer tried to sauce it over to Peddle on the far side, and a superb defensive play by the stick of Isaac Caldwell, who got back. Off the glass, eludes Peddle. He'll change up for Halifax. So close there for the Hawks as well. They've had their chances. Trowini still standing on his head, but Caldwell made an excellent defensive stop there. Now it's Potter clearing out on the backhand. We'll get it roughly up to the red line. Keaton Bond sends it back in for the Hawks, but they're changing up, so it's offside. 4:13 now on the clock. Here in semifinal number 2 at the AA U15 Provincial Hockey Championships. Glace Bay beat the Dartmouth Whalers by 1 goal in semifinal number 1. That came down to the wire in that one. As the Hawks will get it to the slot area, a Blue and a Hawk line down on the ice there. Vincent Brown on top of one of the Bedford Blues players. His stick was tied up and he'll rejoin the play. And sent down into the corner. Bedford will complete a full change. Here as play has been going here for a decent amount of time now. Knowles blocked by Brown in front of the net, and he'll stick it up to himself and try to skate out of the zone. He's going to lose it to Pouliot, who re-enters the zone. He's going to find Ryan Quigley. Quigley joined on the rush by Boudreau and dropped back. Pouliot tries to walk in the middle of the play. Boudreau sticks it, looking for the backhand shot opportunity, and that's blocked there by a Halifax defender. And Hogan, a heavy slapper from the point, and hit Brown on the way in. He's favoring one of his legs a little bit. And now Halifax is up with numbers the other way. 3-on-2, some tired Halifax Hawks forward. So Kempster Harper centered for Connick, and it is kicked aside by the defenseman Picot. Now back to the point where Fortier will throw that the length of the ice, and both teams will get a full change there as some players are caught out there for almost 2 minutes, it looked like, from each of the teams, and especially Halifax, with most of that play in the last couple of minutes coming in their zone. 2:54 remaining before we get the second period Zamboni break. The ice starting to get choppy here in Dominion as Bedford wins the draw. Fluttered in toward the net by Knowles, and backhand rebound, and jamming at it in close quarters was Charlie Stewart. But Grinnell Brown was ready for that for Halifax, just allowing the 1 goal against Lenahan in the first, and that is all the difference right now. Very similar scoreline to this hockey game yesterday. These teams tied at 2 in the Saturday morning round-robin matchup. The score is only 1-0 after 2 periods, though, until Bedford scored twice and Halifax once in the third frame. Rimmer will step around, was looking for the centering pass, and he gets it! Oh, an open net! It looked like for the Hawks. Jax Nickerson-Meehan unable to tie the game. Knowles the other way. That's caught by Grinnell Brown. Nickerson-Meehan now has the puck in his feet. He was set up by Rimmer, but the puck skipped away on him as Trowini was out of the net. And it's going to be a stoppage of play in behind the play, blown dead by the linesman. Perhaps an offside call. Now 2 1/4 in the period. Vincent Brown, Cohen McNally in the draw. Backhanded in by Potter off the Bedford Blues face-off win. Potter picks it up and will establish things in the Halifax zone for the Blues. Up the wall played by Tang as Brown is tied up. He's unable to clear the zone. It's going to go back for Tang, who will take the check there from Stewart. Bedford gets established. Thrown in down low on the far side wall. McNally and barely held along the line. And a good play to hold it for Caldwell of the Blues. It's going to roll around the close side for Blake Miller. And pinching and keeping it in is Potter. It's going to be pinned up along the wall there by Miller, as Charlie Stewart tried to let that go from the point. And it is stripped by Matthew Hollett. He's up with speed. But Stewart gets his stick in the right place at the right time to prevent the shot. And a counterattack the other way. McLean bumped off the puck. It rolled away from him. And Brown will slap that up the close side. No icing as Stewart retrieves it back in his own end. The forward playing in that defensive position as a mismatch of bodies is out there for the Blues. But Vincent Brown, as his team was changing, will go offside. Nearing the final minute of play here in a second period that has not given much space to either of these teams. Both teams locking things down in the middle of the ice. Any opportunities have mostly been stifled by some good defensive plays from each side, but especially a couple times here for the Halifax Hawks as they've gone against the Blues and have been stopped. Jacob Picot, first man back to it, is checked to the ice by Rimmer. Rolled up along the close side boards. As the Hawks will in the zone, played off by Rimmer, over the Bond, shot is wide of the net as Colini slid aside and perhaps caught a piece of it. A trio of Blues down in the corner with 42 on the clock. Off the backside of a forward, it was Will O'Neill skating up with it. Will join Johnson on the rush, skips toward the net, a knuckler off the paddle of Grinnell Brown and will roll to the corner. Second attempt for Bedford, tried to center it, but nobody was home as O'Neill tried to create a play. Counterattack now for Kempster Harper, trying to cut the slot area, stripped. Back and forth action here at the tail end of the second period. Will O'Neill again tried to shimmy shake it. He has some help from Johnson. It's going to block off Sullivan and inject to the boards by Rimmer. It's a 2-on-2. O'Neill was looking for a call as his stick went to the ice and will get the puck back again. Walks in, backhand in close quarters on Grinnell Brown. A second and a half on the clock here remaining in the period. And a late change here for the Hawks, it looks like. Will it count? Vincent Brown is sent out there at the last second. And the Hawks are allowed the late change as the home team in this game. But it'll cause an ejection from the draw. Brown in to take it against O'Neill and is able to kill off the final couple of seconds in the second period. So only one goal to speak of here in the first 30 minutes of the game off the stick of Carter Linehan. That's the difference heading into the intermission. Bedford 15 minutes away from booking their ticket to the gold medal game here in Dominion against the Glace Bay Miners. We'll find out who gets there in about 10 minutes or so after the Zamboni break. You're watching the 2026 Nova Scotia Under-15 AA Provincial Hockey Championships here on High Button Sports. And welcome back to Dominion, Nova Scotia. You're watching the 2026 Nova Scotia Under-15 AA Provincial Hockey Championships. After 2 periods of play, Bedford Blues hanging on to a 1-goal lead, 15 minutes away from a date with the Glace Bay Miners for provincial gold here in Cape Breton. Brendan Trowini standing on his head, playing very solid for the Blues. Faced a couple of attempts, including a breakaway early on. Has stopped everything in his path. Been a battle of the goalies as well, as Grinnell Brown has faced some similar challenges between the Hawks' pipes. So we've had the spirited matchup here between these Central Minor Hockey League rivals as their final meeting between one another here during the season. Always seem to meet in the semifinals. The Hawks took that last semifinal meeting between them, and the Blues take the lead in this one. 15 minutes away from making it in to the championship game. As we get underway here in Dominion for the 3rd period. Halifax Hawks in the red uniforms. Bedford Blues in the blue and whites. So we get underway here, only 10 seconds into the 3rd period now. Draw's going to come outside the Halifax Hawks line. Joseph Rimmer going up against Eric Boudreau. And Halifax is in with it the other way. Knowles thrown in toward the net by Connick. It's going to be gloved up by Trowini. The Hawks will be looking to put a push on and figure out a way to find the back of the Blues net here in the next 14 and a half minutes. A lower scoring game than a lot of the ones here in this tournament. It's the same way yesterday in that 2-2 tie between them. For comparison, it was a 5-4 final between Glace Bay and Dartmouth in the first semifinal earlier on. These teams have played in some blowout games as well, especially Halifax. They won one of their games 7-1 over the Mariners during the round robin. It's knocked into the zone further by Connors, and Bedford gets on their horse here on the forecheck. Now looping around out of pressure is Blake O'Hearn. Taken up and away by Connick. Held at the line by Connors. And Rimmer will pass it off to his defenseman Sullivan. So it was off a stick and wide. You remember yesterday the Hawks were on the receiving end of an own goal. The Blues put the puck into their own net. That was one of the 2 Hawks goals there yesterday. So teams may be a little extra careful around their own nets here as Kempster Harper will let one go off the blocker of Trowini. Owen Kempster Harper thought about throwing the hit, but the Bedford defenseman will dodge the pressure and held in there with the skate of the defenseman Fortier. Centering pass attempt there is wide as Charlie Stewart tried to clear the zone. It's kept in there a couple of times there by the Hawks, and Kempster Harper will loop in low. Todd was waiting in front of the net, as is Vincent Brown. Aiden Todd keeping the pressure on in behind the goal. Kempster Harper's been out there for a while since the puck drop of the opening period here for Halifax, I believe. Brown's going to go to the ice in behind Trowini's net. Kempster Harper will walk it out of the corner and continue the cycle game for the Hawks. Brown is pressured there by the Blues defenseman, and the stick goes flying from a Bedford player, and the Blues will finally get it up across the blue line barely, as some tired Bedford players will head off the ice. All 5 will change up. 2.5 minutes here into this 3rd period. Hawks looking for an answer here for their first goal of the hockey game. Isaac Caldwell chases it down into the corner for Bedford. D-to-D pass over to Marshall Potter on the far side. Unable to get it by Fortier, the defenseman. And come to the middle of the ice. A shot that came off the tape of Jax Nickerson-Meehan. But it is corralled and stopped by Trowini. Face off to the left of Trowini coming up, as Roman Marson will take the face off for the Hawks in the O-zone against McNally. from Bedford. And that's a tie-up. And it'll land on the stick of a blue. Up the middle was Alex McLean. He's been buzzing a little bit this game. Don't imagine it'll be much time until he gets one in as Potter throws a big hit on Matthew Hollett of the Hawks. Quigley cycles that down to Caldwell along the wall, over the stick and out of the reach of Potter, and thrown around the far side boards and picked up by Lenahan on the right wing. Lenahan, the lone goal scorer in this game here in the third period. Hollett, the intended recipient of that pass, will take a bump by Potter in front of the Blues bench, and a collision and a Halifax Hawks player on the ice and down. That is not good. A dangerous hit there along the boards from the Blues. And the Halifax Hawks trainers will check out their player on the ice, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. We'll step aside here for a second as he gets a look at from the staff. Defenseman Blake Miller will head off the ice after receiving end of a big hit in front of his bench. The referees have convened at center ice, and they're going to throw out a Bedford Blues player here for a check from behind. And that will be the end of the game for Alex McLean for Bedford as he heads to the room. 5 minutes on the board, and the Halifax Hawks will get a huge power play coming up here in the third period. Miller is still on the Hawks bench. He didn't go to the room. He's being looked at by the staff still. And hopefully he'll be all right here as we get started on a huge power play after the major taking by McLean. The Blues penalty kill center iceman was tossed out of the draw, and Rimmer will win the face-off and get things set up here on the Halifax power play. Irick Sullivan at the blue line goes to his right side to Rimmer, passes ahead on the return to Sullivan, and he's going to mishandle it and taken up by Lincoln Johnson here one-on-one. Johnson blockered away by Grinnell Brown and through the middle of the ice. Second attempt now, the shot high. A couple of quick looks there. That time Will O'Neill lets it fly over the Halifax net. Now in for the power play unit. Ben Connick carries it in, finds Rimmer on the far side boards, and goes down low for the defenseman Keaton Bond. Goes back up top for Irick Sullivan. Sullivan now to Rimmer. Rimmer dances around, lets it go into the glove. And another save for Brendan Trowini, who sees that Rimmer shot all the way through from the top of the circle. 10:52 to go in the period. 4:13 still to play on the Halifax Hawks power play after that major penalty to Alex McLean from the Blues. Threw a hit there a few moments ago on Blake Miller. Is thrown out for a check from behind. Rimmer will wheel around the net and to the point for Bond. Will exchange passes and positions with Rimmer. Over the top of the umbrella position, leads for Bond on the offhand. Down in low for Connick. Steered off to the side by O'Hearn. And now cutting back in once more. Back and forth passes between Bond and Connick, who's going to wheel around the opposite side of the ice, but no one was home, so he'll try to cycle it back down in deep. He's got his feet, he's tied up by Quigley. Kempster Harper relieves him. Centering pass, and will collide with Keaton Bond, and taken away and slapped down the ice by the Blues. Grinnell Brown out to play it, will do so in front of his own net to Sullivan, and Rimmer will secure the zone entry and chip it in down low. Pursued there closely by Boudreau of the Blues here on this penalty kill. It's scooped up by Ryan Quigley, who perfectly places that backhand down the length of the ice. 3:08 to go on the Halifax power play. They've had a couple looks and some zone possession, but no real good cracks at the net here thus far, as they are trailing by one and looking for that equalizer here in the semifinal. Rimmer drops back for Sullivan. D-to-D pass. And at the top of the circle, let's throw it into the legs. Rebound, scores! Cleaning up the garbage in front of the net. And it is Roman Marson tying the game for the Hawks at 1. And a huge goal on the power play for Roman Marson of the Hawks to finally beat Trowini, and it took a rebound to do it, to make it 1-1 here in this semi-final game here at the Provincial Championships. And remember, it was a major penalty, so no time is erased off the power play. Another 2:35 to go on the man advantage for the Hawks. Face-off will come to the right of Trowini. Vincent Brown then to take the draw for the power play unit. And Marson walked out with it, but was knocked off the puck. Rimmer, D-to-D pass. And there's Miller with the shot high. Blake Miller went down on the hit from behind. That resulted in McLean's ejection. So it's good to see that he's healthy and not seriously hurt. Rimmer cutting to the middle and lets the shot go from a tight angle. Loose puck in the crease. Where is it? Go to the ref. It's still loose. Now it's not, as it's blown dead, as a mishmash of 5 or 6 players between the Blues and the Hawks crowded around Trowini, and Trowini was down there for an extra second. So we get a whistle from center ice coming up here. The players will head to their benches. It looks like a timeout may have been called. I believe the Hawks called the timeout. Both teams will take a quick break here. Still another 2:13 to play here on the power play. A tight-fought defensive game. Some excellent goaltending effort so far from Trowini for the Blues and Grinnell Brown for the Hawks. Bedford struck late in the first period. Carter Lenahan squeezed it on the short side past Grinnell Brown, and it was 1-0 until about a minute ago when Roman Marson cleaned up the rebound in front of Trowini to finally tie things up here for the Hawks, as it becomes anybody's game here now, approaching the midway point of the third period. Connick is in to take the face-off for the power play unit. He's going to tie up his man and get it back to Vincent Brown. Want it back to Rimmer, who is weighing at the left side point. Off a shin pad and hit a couple of objects in the way through. And it'll go up near the glass above the glass on the hockey rink here at Dominion Arena. And it's up and out of play. Draw in the Bedford Blue zone. 2:06 now in the power play. One back to Rimmer. We'll find Blake Miller walking in top of the circle and scooped up by Trowini as Miller was taken down in behind the play, with Blake O'Hearn attempting to block that shot there for Bedford. We'll repeat the face-off, this time on the opposite side of the ice. Vincent Brown now in to take it. We'll win it back to Miller. Changing places with Rimmer, and Miller will walk in with a shot, and glove by Trowini. He has been solid. Yes, there might have been that one goal that beat him, but it could have been a lot more if it wasn't for the play of Trowini in between the pipes for the Blues. So another face-off. We must have had 4 or 5 here in the last 30 seconds. Trowini not shy to freeze it and rest his troops here as the Blues, within 2 minutes of killing off a huge penalty. And they'll have to keep battling, but it's another draw loss to the Hawks. Back to the line for Rimmer. Connick's going to go down in front of the Bedford net. Changing positions with Brown. Brown back to Rimmer. Will cut in. Shot along the ice. Kicked aside by Trowini. Rebound returns to Rimmer. Down behind the net for Connick. He has Kempster Harper parked in the slot position. Connick's going to lose a tire on that one. And Kempster Harper will walk out. Rimmer, top of the circle, looking for Blake Miller. Miller fanned on the pass, but recovered over to Brown. Lets the shot go, is looking high on Trowini. It's up over everything as Rimmer attempts to hold his own, and no, he does not. A good defensive play by Joshua Pouliot to punch it across the blue line. The Hawks will change quickly. Rimmer, the toe drag fake, now to the backhand. Shot, there's room. Lets it go wide on the short side attempt on Trowini. It'll roll all the way down the ice, and a much needed penalty kill change here for the Bedford Blues. Now Miller on the entry with speed to a one-on-one. He goes down. No call on the play as play comes to a stop, and the net is dislodged. Trowini is on his backside. He got tied up there. As the goaltender is still down after that one. Collided with Blake Miller, who's come into the net. Miller looked to have lost an edge as he's getting close in there. And he'll head off the ice. Looks like Trowini's trying to shake off something. It looked to be favoring a leg, but he is back up and ready to go in the Bedford net. 48 seconds to go on the power play. Just over the midway point of the third period, a tie goal from Roman Marson to have things evened up at one here between Halifax and Bedford. It skipped up and out of the zone, and numbers for the Blues on the penalty kill. Heading down the other way, pops away from Johnson. Johnson looking for the return pass to O'Neill. As the two of them almost got away there with numbers short-handed on top of the Halifax net. Keaton Bond takes off the other way. He's going to lose it as he crossed over the blue line. And now Brown has to hustle back with some help from Nickerson Meehan. But settling down everything and a breath for everybody is Grinnell Brown. And the draw will come to his left with another 18 seconds to go on the Bedford Blues major penalty. Eric Boudreau out to take the draw for Bedford. Going up against Connick in the face-off dot. Now down the Halifax zone. Blues had a good short-handed shift, so they're going to take the energy the other way. Quick discussion with the referees at each of the benches. Now over at the Bedford Blues bench. As the chants erupt here in the Dominion Arena. In this a very, very tight semi-final game. Just under 7 to go in regulation. Maybe overtime is in sight with how this game has been going. But the face-off is won back to Pickott. Rimmed around the boards for Connick. And we'll clear things up here for the Hawks. As the 5th Bedford Blue about to jump out of the box. Connick toward the net. Oh, he had an opening to the left side of Trowini's pads and just missed the net. We're back to 5-on-5 action, so now anybody's game. Rimmer will walk through on the toe drag. It takes a huge hit in behind the play, as does Connick, as the first line for Halifax gets to work. Rimmer is checked there again, that time along the wall as Pickott is throwing the body for the Bedford Blues. Back to the line for Irick Sullivan. Will cut to the middle of the ice. Looking for the drop pass to Tang. Could he keep it in? Yes, he could. But we'll lose control here to the Bedford Blues. Kicked up there with the left skate of Adrian Hogan, the defenseman. He's going to join the rush along with Boudreau. 5:55 now left in the period. The Hawks completing some sporadic changes. It's right down on top of Brendan Trowini's net. And he will cover up as the pressure was coming on for the Halifax Hawks. 5:49 on the clock. And a tie game between Bedford and Halifax on High Button Sports. Tie up off the face-off. Cohen McNally wins the draw in the D zone. A big one for the Bedford Blues. Up over the head of Quigley and shot down the ice. Looks like it'll be an icing against Bedford. So another face-off coming up in the blue zone. Been a tight checking hockey game here. Bedford does allow the tying goal on that major penalty taken by Alex McLean. But they kill off the rest of it pretty steadily here. Weathering the storm here of the Hawks attack in the third frame. And is walking up through the middle. Individual effort by Quigley. As the puck will fly over to the corner. Connors will handle it. Tries to slap that into the middle of the ice. Picked off in the slot by Matthew Hollett. up on a flick and into the mesh on the clearing attempt from Bedford. Caused a spook for a few of the fans here, sitting up here in the stands in Dominion. And the draw will come inside the blue zone to the right of Trowini. Vincent Brown squaring off and face off against Cohen McNally. And it's in the feet of Brown. Nobody's come up with it yet. Nickerson Meehan will knock it back to his defenseman Asselin. The shot from the point. It's a knuckle puck that will float to the far side of the net on Trowini. Giving chase is Todd. He'll throw the body, or he attempts to anyway, on the Blues player. And going up with speed the other way is Bedford on the forecheck the other way. That's Aiden Knowles joining the rush. The Blues captain went for the center, but is taken away on the counterattack now for Halifax's Nickerson Meehan. Does he stay onside? According to the linesman, he does. Brown couldn't hold the line though, and it'll bounce back to the Halifax blue line. Asselin makes the play, and up on the other side of the ice is Fortier. Fortier going in one-on-one, walks around the coverage from Connors, and the centering pass attempt off a stick. Cross scores! Jack Nickerson Meehan gives Halifax the lead with 4.5 to go in the second. And Nickerson Meehan has had some chances in this game for Halifax. Had a wide open net in the second period that he got a bad bounce on and missed the net. That time he takes care of business and puts it past Trowini for the first Hawks lead of the game. Johnson centering pass. An immediate response here from the Blues almost, as Will O'Neill missed a chance but threw a big body check in behind the play. And now we'll see a bit of a jump in pace here as we come to crunch time here in the third period. Not the second period, as I mentioned on the goal from Nickerson Meehan. It is indeed the third with 4:10 left. Looks like an offside call there against the Halifax Hawks, who themselves are now leading by 1 goal. They find a pair here in the third period in this winner go home provincial championship semifinal against Bedford. The Blues looking for a response, led by Johnson, who will dump it in with the help of Lenahan. And the big boys for Bedford get the work here with Will O'Neill and Carter Lenahan joining this top line. And taking a tumble out the other way was O'Neill, who lost an edge. From the point is tipped wide there by an errant stick. Halifax tries to clear, held at the line. Caldwell, a bit of a change of pace here for the Blues, who haven't spent a lot of time this period attacking. Now they have to, as they need a goal here in the next 3.5 to tie it. Tied up along the boards as a rugby scrum of players over on the far side results in a pass and taken away in the slot area by Will O'Neill, who will go to throw the check in behind the net. Will hold the line up top at the Bedford point. Thrown back in down low by Potter. Curling out pressure is Johnson. Now Potter at the circle. Caught rebound. Lenahan in front of the net. It's loose. Where'd it go? Losing the blocker is the goaltender, Grinnell Brown, who made the save from point blank range on the Bedford Blues. Carter Lenahan almost scoring his second of the game, and it couldn't have come at a bigger time. And a huge save there for the Hawks goaltender. Draw coming to the left, to the right side rather, of the Hawks net, and it is won by Bedford. Thrown down into the corner, and curling away from pressure is Blake O'Hearn. He's pursued there by a pair of Hawks. Eric Boudreau comes in to help. Boudreau throws it to his point. It's a bouncing puck. It'll skip out on Hogan. There's Jacob Picott. It's going to be shoved to the ice there by Nickerson Meehan, the go-ahead goal scorer here in this third period for Halifax to make it 2-1 for the team in red. It's going to bounce away from Pouliot back to the line for Hogan. Leaves it up to the backhand of Pouliot. It's going to run into a log jam there at the red line with the Hawks completing a change. 2:22 to go here in the third period. Keep an eye on Brendan Trowini in the Bedford Blues net. Expect some 6-on-5 action perhaps coming up here in a moment, if the Blues can't score before then, as it is thrown down the ice. on an icing call committed against the Halifax Hawks. 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the game. The Hawks took their time out during their 5-minute power play earlier in the period. So it's just Bedford with a timeout left. Draw to the left of Oliver Grinnell Brown. They're in to take the face-off. And the Hawks will be kicked out of the draw here. Rimmer will have to be replaced by Matthew Hollett. Cohen McNally taking the face-off for the Blues in the O-zone, and they'll take it to the wall. A pair of Blues and 3 Hawks in there as well. A third Blue joins the battle, taken away by Lincoln Johnson, who is throwing there hard against the boards. And there's 6 players in that battle. Still, nobody has established it. The net is empty for Bedford. 1:50 to go. Last stand for the Blues. Season on the line as it's flipped up out the center ice by the Hawks. And hopping on his horse is Kempster Harper with an insane amount of speed there. And almost runs in the net but saves himself, but is unable to put it into the open net to seal it. And mishandling it at the line was Bedford. Picked up at center by Miller. And wide of the open cage with 98 seconds to go in the game. Aiden Knowles will slip that through in tight quarters to Connors, his teammate, and Bedford will gain the zone but lose it immediately. Out, Kempster Harper, a block, a game-saving one by the captain Knowles. It's gone in behind the net though. Immense pressure provided here on the Hawks on this 6-on-5 scenario for Bedford. Now the final minute of play. Last chance for the Blues as they punch it into the zone. They can't establish though. They change up the players. Vincent Brown, a look off the body into the net. And the Halifax Hawks will seal it with 51.5 seconds to go in the third. And it looked like the Blues defenseman almost blocked that shot, but it went off him and into the open cage. As Vincent Brown will all but ice this hockey game, pending a late Blues push here in the final 50 seconds of the third. Dumped into the zone by Asselin. Troini is back in the Blues net. Season on the line here as the battle ensues over in the corner. Throwing a hit there is Marshall Potter, knocking a Halifax Hawk to the corner. Halifax trying to kill off time to the clock here as they will secure a date with the Glace Bay Miners here in about 2 hours here at the Dominion Arena. 18 seconds down the clock. Luke Peddle throws that in down low as Potter tries to escape pressure with time ticking down the third. An entertaining game, a game in which the Blues led most of the way as Boudreau walks in. And another chance in front, and Grinnell Brown dives across to make the save. But the Hawks score 3 in the third period to take the semifinal game by a 3-1 score and advance to the provincial final and a chance to defend their title on top of the Nova Scotian Mountain. 3-1 the final in favor of the Halifax Hawks. And Hawks and Blues fans all year have saw a lot of these matchups between these two teams. Always a close-fought game, tie games as we've seen yesterday. And definitely that rivalry feel. And this game certainly didn't disappoint either. Came down to the very last minute in this one. Jack Nickerson-Meehan scores the go-ahead goal with about 4 to go, 4.5 minutes to go in the third. And Vincent Brown seals it on the empty net to send the Halifax Hawks back to the final, where we'll be treated to a battle of the number 1 and number 2 seeds here this weekend, with the Glace Bay Miners awaiting the Hawks in the provincial championship final as we throw it down to the ice for the Player of the Game awards.
Coming up, we'll have our Player of the Game introductions, but first let's have a round of applause for both teams in a great game here this morning. Player of the Game for Halifax, number 12, Nickerson.
And for the second straight game for the Hawks, Nickerson Meehan takes the Player of the Game honors, the game winner in this one to send the Halifax Hawks to the final. Charlie Stewart, Player of the Game honors for the Bedford Blues. He had a goal post in that game and was buzzing all game for Bedford, who played a spirited matchup there against their rivals, the Halifax Hawks. But it is Halifax coming away with a berth in the provincial final. To wrap things all up here, the Halifax Hawks, the Glace Bay Miners, playing for provincial gold here in Dominion. Coming up at 2 o'clock. Here on High Button Sports. Well, thanks for tuning in for this one. We'll see you in the gold medal game here in Dominion. My name is Luke Diamond. We'll catch you later in about an hour and a half here on High Button Sports.
The Bedford Blues with the bronze medal of the Nova Scotia National Teams.